Greetings in the name of the Most High. Well, yes. What did I say? 40 or 50 shooters is a possibility. Yeah, not shooters, but 40 or 50 people involved in the operation. Again, you have to multiply that now by hundreds involved in the Charlie Kirk U.S. government hit. And I think what's really frustrating for me, like one of the reasons I have trouble even watching anymore, I can't tolerate people that have even strong opinions about anything in this stupid circus, this piece of shit thing we have to put up with while people could be living decent lives. We have to put up with all this minutia and all this stupid crap that's got nothing to do with anything. So now we'll talk about the Charlie Kirk revival. Was not a revival; it was an awakening. It was a memorial and a unifying of spirit of people rededicating themselves to Jesus. And I suppose you could say, in that sense, a revival, but it was a revival. Doesn't quite satisfy me about any word revival to a Christian. What a tent revival? You mean a snake oil revival? Some kind of end of the world doom and gloom revival? I mean, sing them at all. A lot of people think that Erica Kirk was putting out the devil horn hands when she put this up. This means I love you in sign language. Thumb that way. I love you. And I'm trying, Lord. I'm trying. See, here's the thing. The news media was involved, so that's hundreds of people. Okay. You had special operations. We don't know how many departments, but let's say there were 4 or 5, that would have multiplied to like a few hundred people there. And, these sort of global influences that are in our government, our military, whatever, take their orders from like the WEF and the globalists, and they're fulfilling the future of a one world government, an ecumenical religion, and a technocracy. And there's literally trillions and trillions of more money than the United States will ever have is backing it. Okay, so Charlie Kirk, any kind of nationalism and anything to do with Christianity, because Christianity is supposed to be dead. The whole point of Christianity is to kill it. Same thing with Islam and ultimately Judaism, or at least transform them into this one world ecumenical religion. Now that is what's at the forefront of this. That's always been the plan. And the plan continues unabated. And I predict that people will never get to the bottom of Charlie Kirk. Just like na 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 goodbye. Yeah, baby. Just like Vegas. And whatever else you want to, other kind of circus kind of bullshit you want to throw in there, whatever kind of carnival nonsense is going on, they won't get to the bottom of that either. They'll wind up at the bottom of the sea. These are assassinations are planned. A great deal of planning goes into them. Andy feels he's next. He feels he's next. He goes, Antifa wants me next. Antifa doesn't call the shots. Antifa is just simply another force under the payroll of the same people that fund the WEF and the UN and the globalists and the NGOs. And how many NGOs do you think were involved in the Kirk thing? Who had foreknowledge? Probably quite a few. And so the Kirk memorial to me kind of represented, the little guy trying to stand up against the big machine. But the thing is that the big machine is bigger than the little guy. That's the people say, oh no, if everyone woke up, boy, it would be a big force to contend with. That's not true. The big machine has its tentacles, or I'm sorry, checkbooks in everywhere. So it's really sad though. I don't really want to talk about that today. Charlie Kirk. I felt like I'd watched the TV coverage. I watched the event very closely. I saw the theater going on between Elon Musk and Trump. That was very interesting. I kind of see it all as being a history unfolding. And I'm sorry for Kirk, and I'm sorry for his wife and his kids, and that but he knew, there's a danger to putting out information, and there's a danger to rallying, but then even worse, converting. These kids have been groomed since grade school, and now they're in college, and they've been groomed by LGBTQ and basically social engineers and this and that to be conformable to the new society. And in the next phase, things like sex are to be open between adults and children, because sex is there for pleasure. It's not really there for a procreation or to have babies, certainly not babies, but will just be there as an appendage of a prior civilization to eventually be eliminated. And but it will be sold as, have whatever pleasure you like, and learn to get past taboos and fears and hangups early in grade school, so that by the time you get to college, you're ready to rock. Adults want sex with you, you're ready to bend over and take it, or whatever it is, whatever idiotic thing they want you to do, which is all idiocy. And they're all idiots, and they're all worthless. And so there's really nothing for me to see here except, wonder when the garbage is going to get cleaned up. That's, but the timelines have been botched now. And what I mean by timelines is we're running on parallel timelines, and, that look like now chaos. But it's not chaos. God's timeline is perfect, and it's solid as a rock. And it's the only real timeline to pay attention to. And that's like, a biblical timeline. We're getting ready here for Rosh Hashanah now. And this will be a significant new year. And yes, the Hebrew calendar is something that is looked at by many secret societies. But I think they will be able to accomplish their goal to a certain extent, and then it will fall apart. And then, one of the really funny things, I want to talk about some of the really intricate things here going on. I realized that, the other day I started realizing I was watching some award ceremony, and we've been awarded a few things, for our films, and people like to, celebrate the arts and give awards for films and things like that. And that's nothing wrong with that. But see, when the powers that be, the star makers, the king makers, everybody is selling out because they want to get the attention of the kingmakers, and they just figure, and then in that case, prizes go to the people that are most utilizable, if I can say that word. You have the most utility for social influencing, and whether it be actors or but the first thing they have to do is they have to be vetted through sex, and once that becomes not a problem, then eventually, slowly, they have to be vetted through experiencing um, really depraved things that we could call them rituals, but they don't call them that probably. How far will they go? How far can you blackmail them? Into and to that extent, that equals what amount of prize. The prizes, people get prizes, and the prizes are handed out. To all the little sellouts. Trying to be I suppose actors and actresses and directors and writers and movers and shakers. The only people that are not in that group, and thank God for them, are indies, independent voices, whether in music or entertainment. Of course, sports cannot compete, but they get handed out prizes for being and by the time they get the prizes, then it was mentioned once at the Charlie Kirk Memorial. Uh, you know, is it really worth it losing your soul? And the answer is, of course, not worth it, because that's the only thing that's life or alive, and that's what eternal life is based on. So you don't want to lose your soul, because that's what makes you you, and that's what is forever, enduring. And you know, the journey of the soul, we don't know. Well, some of us remember, living before and then living in the future, and that can be also cell memories. So I tell people to be very careful if you're going to do a past life regression or try to find out what your life was before. You don't even need to do that, but we all have amnesia. We all been wiped. But anyway, I'm aware that I am eternal. I am eternal, and I am cosmic. Okay, so that means I am everywhere, and nowhere and everywhere. I'm visible everywhere and invisible everywhere. I'm hearable everywhere and unhearable everywhere. Where I am not heard is Earth. I'm blocked on Earth. My ideas are blocked on Earth. My output is blocked. So the Lord has given me an edict of do it anyway. Even if, of course, you're blocked, and, you could have all the prizes. I could have had all the prizes if I wanted to. It was just laying there before me on a silver platter, it was already, it was, pretty much a birthright at that point. And I had rejected it and turned toward the wilderness, because I could see that there would be no way. Okay, yeah, you're going to have to just be patient. Okay, there would be no way to be kind of a part of this. Like, I think I'll take a little money from them, and not, and or a little of that sellout money, but I won't go too far. Yeah, okay, there's okay, ding. Oh, that's a lot of you guys. And you're wondering if you've gone too far. That must be awful to wonder that. In Jesus' name, I repent for any of that, and for any feeding at the wrong table, Lord. I repent from taking anything from them, and I seek to just do right by you and not sell what you have freely given me and you have created in me. That I will honor that as my temple. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you, Lord, for saving me, because only you, Jesus, and only your blood can save me, because of the condition of man, which is fallen. So some people think, if they've been initiated into it. Because I mean, you know, fraternities initiate, you know, and sororities initiate people, and they make you humiliate yourself, right, in some way, uh, as a pledge. And then once they've humiliated you enough, and you've been a good sport about it, they reward you with becoming a member. But there's a hazing ritual in the beginning, and that's the same thing in special ops forces in the military. Same thing in secret societies, and especially like we saw a bit of like Skull and Bones, for example, in the Yale campus of I think Robert De Niro made a film that involved showing some of the ritual of masturbating in a coffin while the guys sit around watching, and or being peed on in a coffin, you know, as part of a ritual of, you know, are you going to be able to, this is all a loyalty test, isn't it? So you're pledging, you know, even in such, um, kind of like tawdry circumstances of, you know, being forced to masturbate in front of all these people that are standing around the shadows, fully dressed, watching you go at it. Is you're basically what you're doing there is using your free will to become acceptable as a candidate. And of course, the being peed on is further humiliation. You know, will you get mad and run, or will you feel like you're abused or a victim, or are you going to be able to, step up to the challenge? And people look at it that way. And and they can go, you know, much further. Like some initiations are, you know, killing a person, or I mean, it can go much further than that. You know, because I mean, these like um, what was it? I had some funny thing about circle jerks, and I lost it. Uh, anyway, Pia had it. I told her, but she might have made a meme about it. Anyway, it was just like, you know, this is usually their way of separating the outside world and the inside world. It's a way of creating. Actually, if you want to understand it on a deeper level, it's a way of creating a sacred space, because sex in whatever form, automatic, auto sex, other sex, whatever sex. These things are done by lots of people. It's not exclusive to the Skull and Bones, not exclusive to this fraternity or that fraternity, not exclusive to this group or that group. But by doing these rituals that go up a scale and become more and more insane, till it finally leads to killing. Um, uh, it must necessarily lead to blackmail to trust a person with any secrets, or send people out on missions, or whatever. And so if you wonder how could they all kill Charlie Kirk and keep that a secret, it's because they're afraid of death. Because if anyone spills the beans, they get killed, even if it's by accident. And they already know this going in. They've already been threatened that if you say anything to anyone about this ritual, well, wait, I've jerked off before. It was never into some kind of ritual. There's never a gag order on it. No, it's not that stupid. It's that there's a ritual to begin with these people here. Or if you want to bump it up to the level of Eyes Wide Shut, killing a girl, making a woman the sacrifice that you would have been, and giving it over to her, and then assigning her that sacrifice, where she becomes sacrifice, and it's in the paper, and you know about it, you know all about it, and but see, now they know that they can blackmail you, like I'm talking about the character of Tom Cruise, who was supposed to be sacrificed by the elites, and he found a way to substitute it, a woman in his place. And then we have Jesus being the substitute in our place of a sacrifice, of acceptable sacrifice. And so, whenever there is any kind of, meaningful ritual or something that really moves the dial, there's usually some kind of sacrifice involved. That I think that's why a lot of these, these worlders, these secret society members, they love hunting so much. Goes back to the tradition of kings in Europe. And then before that, hunting dogs. Hunting was always revered, but of course, because it's all tied in to one of the great rituals, which is the most dangerous game, which is when they start hunting humans that are, ne'er-do-wells or undesirables. I think one of the reasons they will, and so naturally, this affiliation with the dark side through social circles, through guilds, clubs, whatever, what have you, always involves corruption of self-corruption as the initial ritual. But then now this comes after a long years and years of grooming by LGBTQ inspired teachers to create not just a lot of trans people, but also create good and pliable kids ready for the technocracy, which is ready to perform as called. In other words, instead of having it be like your decision whether you're going to put out or not, or do knee time, or do this or that with this person to try to move up the ladder, or whatever it is, versus not. They are trying to eliminate that part of the process now in the grooming and make it so it's automatic. It's like I give you a nod or a wink, and it's like, oh, you know what I want, you perform it. I'm the adult, you're the child. You have to perform when I tell you to, because I'm the adult, you're the child. Or if I'm the child and you're the adult, I have to perform, because you can't say no to an adult if you're a child. And that has to become codified into law. So that's where this is heading. But then pedophilia is not the end all and be all. It's a temporary stop along the way to complete and total asexuality, which will be, which will create a certain efficiency, because sex no longer will be about children, and then will only be about pleasure. And then, and now I think that they made hazing rituals in high schools. It's like, the people that are not sexual or not interested, are not going to participate, ruin it for everybody else. And they're not going to have that in the future. The idea is to eliminate that, so that any kid holdouts that don't want to either join the group or get with the program will be, and already are being, as we speak, separated from the school, sent to alternative schools, sent to schools run by psychiatrists, so they can be groomed slowly, or slowly convinced, because the key to giving up the soul is sex. And then the murder urge in giving up the soul is an extension of sexuality. So it's the sex, it's that line of being, I guess people are, children are naturally, and humans are naturally shy, right? If you're naked and in the shower, whatever, you wrap around with a towel in front of your siblings, usually, not all the time, but I mean, usually there's that kind of uh, protocol in families, and so forth and so on. So for that barrier to be broken, that barrier has to be broken. And the only way to do that would be to get the adults to have sex with the children, to break it down, and to then enforce nudity, let's say, in the household, where it wasn't there before, let's say, in years past. But now it must be part of it, because there's an immediacy. There's no time to just send kids to mental hospitals because they can't figure out, what's being asked of them. Wow, that's some cold, some flu we're getting over. I mean, it's pretty amazing. I think I'm going to grow my beard a little longer. I think I'm going to do that. I don't know. There's really no help. I just am a 71-year-old male, and you just have to put up with that. But I know a lot of stuff because of that, because of having survived. So, the but here's the kicker though. When you become too forward with the sex, you lose the guilt and shame. You dilute the guilt and shame. And when that happens, you lose compliance. And so it's all about sex. In fact, a lot of high schoolers may not know this, but some of these kind of superlative kids that are, they want to saddle with the right girlfriend to groom them. So a lot of these girls that would be there for that guy um, would not really be students. They'd be play actors, cosplay, playing a part of a high school senior. They're assigned, and they're handlers and controllers. I had my share of these, and or they do go to school, another school nearby, and that becomes the girl says, "Why don't you go with a girl out of your own school?" And then for the women, you have men who are in the same position as merely players, designed to shape the person toward obedience and compliance without killing the goose that laid the golden egg, without killing the talent. And so so that's the delicate job, and they're not having any kind of blowback. For example, I mean, Charlie Kirk could go to these campuses and sort of talk about the issues, and every once in a while he would share his faith. And I watched him a lot because I felt he was so talented as a debater, that he was really quite something to watch. And then he was a firm a person of faith, and really just encouraged the kids to accept Jesus. Not he didn't, but that wasn't the focus of his Turning Point USA. He wanted to bring basically common sense back to school. And I would say to him now, even though he's gone, it's very difficult to do that when you have parents who are already indoctrinated too. So the parents are indoctrinated, the aunt and uncle are indoctrinated, the grandparents are indoctrinated. I mean, I don't know what my grandparents would have done had they not had the corruption to jump into, because that's how they moved on up the ladder. How else are they going to advance unless they embrace it? So what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And then if the gander doesn't really understand, I mean, I was so I guess you would say traumatized when I was a child. In fact, people who remember me remember that I seem to be a traumatized individual, and and all I can say is, well, you get traumatized from abuse. Let's say it goes unaddressed. You get sexualized at 5, but then you close up, and you're not, it's like your mother comes to kiss you goodnight in bed, tries to rub her hand over your head, and you move your head away, like, don't touch me. Ever? I mean, I know it's kind of, well, I mean, I went through that, and that saved my butt, actually, literally and spiritually, because I was just I had become, it goes one of two ways, or kids get groomed sexually and then they become, ravenous, when they get to be a little older, just around puberty time, they become ravenous. And, it can go either way. And then for the people that become inverted because of the process of abuse, which is everyone is abused. So, I mean, it's, basically, that's the other thing that people, well, they look at the documentary, they go, oh, How do we know that's true? It's like, of course it's true. Everyone knows that's true. Everyone in the whole world. You're just lying. That's all you do. Lie, lie, lie. You all know it's true. It's the world is the abuser, and the initiation is sexual, and it involves pleasing, the adults. And then when it's your turn to become an adult, it means you grooming children, shaping children, moving, preparing them to take your place, and keep the secret going. Nobody talks or they get killed. They say, well, why isn't there evidence? Because anyone, what do you think mental hospitals are for? What do you think jails are for? Anyone that starts squawking about this stuff, if it gets too pertinent, too close to an individual, a lot of times they just disappear. So where's your evidence? Well, it's gone. Okay, we're supposed to have discovery here in court, and we just subpoenaed all the documents, and guess what? They're missing. They're missing. And so no one that is abused in general is going to ever have their day in court. My prediction, they will never, ever have a day in court. The Me Too movement is dead. And I just don't believe that there will be, I believe you're going to see a lot of compliance. But it's no different than it used to be, except that we have groomers in the kindergarten level. At those levels, we have teachers and adults who are there to sexually shape and awaken the children so that they become sexualized by 5, hopefully. But the cutoff date is 8. If you get him by 8, you got him for life. Well, that's what they used to say about homosexual grooming. If you can get him by 8, you have him for life. No, this goes for the world order, which is completely sexualized. You get him by 8, you got him for life. So you have to find a way to force the issue if you're a parent, so that whether you need help or not, you need to, because if it goes beyond 8 and they become teenagers and they still, and now they feel like abuse victims, and the whole thing is backfired and they can't see the forest for the trees, meaning it's everywhere, everything, all the time, man. Can you open your eyes? Everybody knows that's true. So I said in the documentary, it's real simple. Everyone knows it's true. So if they make criticisms like, oh, he's lying or all that, those are all lies. Because it's like, do you know the sun comes up in the east and sets in the west, or there's stars in the sky at night? Then the truth. That's how simple it is. That's how ubiquitous it is. And what is it? Do you think that's a satanic ritual abuse? Well, I believe it's satanic, meaning it's that's kind of an adjective label. It's satanic. It's a satanic thing. I'm not saying that the people who engage in secret structural initiations and social climbing, I'm not suggesting that they're think that they're worshiping Satan or anything like that. Although they do experience, a modicum of a natural magical ability. In other words, the ability to use the mind to do a quantum mechanical things. When I say quantum mechanics, I mean, person A over here wills the plane to crash. You know what I mean? And then, the object B is the plane, and then it crashes, things like that would be quantum, meaning that there's no time between the two objects. It's instantaneous. So there is the lace throughout the whole system, the occult in various degrees of understanding and abilities for the adept, as they call them, the alchemist, and the various people to be able to become gods themselves and manipulate matter and form, and find Jacob's ladder and the portal to forever and the whole bit. And the thing is, it's freely given to God's children without toil, strife, or having to hurt others. Satanism or the world system means the system cannot exist without doing harm and murder. Ultimately, murder is the ultimate form of sex. Is murder and the ultimate form of warfare would be cannibalism and spiritual warfare. So all these things are at play as well. And the only thing people that don't know anything, they don't know anything because they were not initiated into these. Somehow they avoided it. But that seems impossible because even the guy, I always love to talk about the guy at the 7-Eleven, even he's willing to initiate you, you know. So let alone the perverts at the truck stop and so on and so forth. And basically they're all perverts if trying to capitalize upon the flesh for power, meaning magical power comes from manipulation of objects, especially flesh and mind, ruining someone's life. And then the magical powers that are growing in a person who has more and more success in witchcraft. Now that's witchcraft, of course, but that's all interlaced. It's all interlaced together. So that it's hard to see Satan and the horns and the. No, you see figurines like that, but you don't see. Sometimes people dress up in those kind of outfits, but basically it's their own power they worship, and they realize that the further they can sell out, the more they can get away with stuff, the further they'll go in terms of power. Like in any of these things, I can see the LA Country Club in Los Angeles, and I can see one of their late night rituals going on, after midnight, where all these good people that look like they just went to church need to be going to bed, and they're all sitting there, all with weird plastic stretched looks on their faces, and in comes, and in the middle of the ballroom, there's a big pentagram, and then all of a sudden, appearing out of the smoke is Charles Manson, and they all just wildly applaud. Yeah, the real hero. And being from LA, and being close to Benedict Canyon and Cielo Drive in Beverly Hills, where all the Tate murders took place, legendary. And so a lot of people I know in the entertainment business. See, I have a really accurate theory about entertainment people. Number one, they don't believe in anything. I mean, I've known some that were black magic practitioners. Okay, so they believe in that, and then most of the time, I just have to stay away from people like that because I don't want to spend all my time deflecting their shit, or even worse, getting them in trouble or fighting them. I just basically feel sorry for them. I pray for their salvation. Okay, so there's that category of people that know that the occult is true, and there's and they're striving for their own godhood. They sold out at 3, and now they've had their first victim at 13, and they're on a roll, baby. They're on a roll, and but then the bulk of people that are involved in, say, like horror and sci-fi, they don't, or they really get off on costumes and monsters and horror movies and stuff. It's a pretty geeky group. They're not. I just didn't see anybody say, I was just at a convention. I saw no evil, and I saw no believers in the dark side of society, of meaning of on that side of practitioners. I saw a few people that looked like they were probably witches, and but you see that anywhere. The most witches I ever saw concentrated in one area was at the hospital. There are more witches there per square foot than anywhere else on earth. And of course, they love killing people and harvesting their organs, especially if they have a chance to live. Boom, ka-ching, it counts. Up they go. Yeah, they'll have that Mercedes SUV in no time. So Yeah. I remember how Justin Bieber was telling, did something for Diddy. I think he just let Diddy have sex with him, but the price was a new Lambo or something. And they would play like that, but it's a really serious slavery because it is all prep for the technocracy. The technocracy means 4 or 5 billion people dead, but then it means the recreating of human into a kind of a robotoid, mechanized, completely under control slave. There is no room for free individuals in the new order to come. There's no room for Christianity or, like I say, the great monotheistic religions, or even social Buddhism and things like that. All these ideas have to be made afresh. Made like well, they've already got organizations out there that have tried to syncretize all the top religious books into one. And but ultimately, I believe it will be political, and behavior will be based on it. So if your behavior aligns, then you'll get your income check, and you'll be able to travel based on the social credit score. But here's the kicker: you won't want to travel. There'll be no need anymore. Why would you need to travel? You have everything you need. You're not a free person. There's no point for you to go look and have awe at the sunset over the Indian Ocean or something. There's no need for you to travel through the seven seas and look at all the wonders of the world because you're a slave. And it began in grade school, and the world was your abuser, and you, at some point, corrupted yourself through free will into it, and you've been climbing the ladder ever since. And these people want their payoff. They want their payout from, especially like when I see how many desperate people in Hollywood. I mean, look, for all you guys who are out there struggling in Hollywood, trying to be noticed, like on Facebook and stuff, they don't notice you. And they're not going to notice you. And they're not going to select you based on, showing off with your work. The only thing that'll impress them is you're going to have to infiltrate one of their groups, find a way to become part of it and be initiated into it, and get through the humiliation and become accepted. And that's what it would take, and most people are not willing to do. They think after a certain amount of selling out, after a certain amount of blowjobs or whatever, they figure, I'm entitled to be noticed. No, they don't care about the arts. They don't care about your artwork. They don't care about your acting. They don't care about your right. They don't care about anything that has to do with you. And you could have been on this path for 30 years. They don't care, and they don't care. So why are you doing your art? Your supervisor likes to look at it. Your the people you work for, they're certainly happy that you're producing for them. Your friends like to look at your art. Facebook's a good place to show it if you're a visual artist. But understand that that's about it. Nobody really cares about anything. And they certainly don't care. Look, if they care about something, they care about themselves and their progress. And if you fall from your little perch, there'll be another one there to try to take your place. So much for loyalty. And there is no exception to this system. This is Satan's system. It's always been there. People have to make a decision. Who am I going to serve? As Bob Dylan said, you're going to serve somebody. Could be the devil. He serves the devil. So he said the devil gave him his early. He had a very hot career early in life. He brought electric music into folk, and was able to capitalize on that, and then become a success at AM radio and then FM radio. And then, even he would say in a latest interview I saw, he can't write like that anymore. He had special powers. And it's like, yeah, they're magical, heavy duty powers, but then when they're gone, they're gone. He can, go on tour and do his old songs. He can write new ones, but they're never going to be inspired like the earlier ones. And he admits it. And he says, I didn't even write those songs, Bob Dylan says. Whatever's in him, whatever, took hold of him early on. Because they're interested, terribly interested in youth, not when you're older. There's no, catching your stride when you're older. And why do I only do it because we all have to do something on earth. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing independent films and music, and I do music for no money whatsoever. I do master on occasion people's records if they need it. But with the algorithms being what they are today, for mastering, you really don't need people like me anymore anyway. So, I just watch the wheels go around, and let's see. I'm just sitting here watching the wheels go around and around. I really love to watch them roll. What was that? It's a John Lennon song produced by Phil Spector. No longer on the merry-go-round. I just had to let it go. And when I let it go, I think the secret to I still have a long ways to go, but to my early success here at 71 years old is when, everybody just leaves me alone because I'm too radioactive, because I say, I don't have a filter. I say anything. We could sit down at Starbucks and clear the room in 5 minutes. Okay. I know they get so mad, especially when I go, everybody knows what I'm talking about. What do you mean? And they get so mad because they know it's true. Everybody knows it's true. Just like one of those things, you just don't talk about your diarrhea, or something like that. But the bottom line is, it's God loves it when we speak boldly, and if we have no filter. He took my filter away, so if I sense there's hostility toward Jesus, then the name Jesus has to be amplified in the restaurant. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And if I'm shy about that around all my cool friends who are all making their way in Hollywood, and I want to be cool among them too. So I'm gonna, get rid of the hardcore Christians around and kind of just, keep that name Jesus to myself more and hang out with, the really famous, talented people that are distinguished themselves in my industry. And since none of them are Christian, I really just have to kind of keep that off to the side. Let me tell you something. God hates that because you're disloyal. I told you the entire walk in Christ is about loyalty, which is what glorifies God, and loyalty also involves worship. So don't think I'm leaving anything out, but it's about loyalty. Okay. Wednesday, I have therapy. Well, what are we talking about in therapy? Well, sometimes I become filled with since I figured everything out, the way the whole world works, the ups and downs. There's nothing I don't know. I'm not an arrogant statement. It's not a boast. It's, a lot of you that are not dead before you get to be in your 70s. A lot of stuff. You pretty much know the way the world works, and where I might not know a lot of specificity on certain things because I don't fucking care. Okay. But I got I basically I've got it. And so I realize how isolated we all are. And these guys go, I don't want to be isolated like you. I want to have a career. Well, then you put the career first, hang out around all those talented people that are making a name for themselves, go out to their parties and go watch their football games and go do their, go take their kids to school and do whatever that it is that you need to do to be on the in crowd. And then, of course, when in Rome, when those times come to sin, you're going to have to sin right along with them. Right? Because you're feeding at that trough. But please don't think that because you give lip service to Jesus, that you have any relationship with Jesus whatsoever, because you don't. And I don't think it's such a horrible thing to really grok. Beloved Peter had this problem of loyalty. The highest disciples, the highest people in Christendom, fell into this problem. It's a very common thing, I'm not with those weirdo Christians. I'm with you cool insiders over here. We're making a dent, and we're gonna rule over Hollywood or over Silicon Valley or whatever it is. And my new app is going to be gold because I'm going to just keep my powder dry, and I'm going to minimize. So when you go to my site, you won't see any of these hardcore people hanging around. I'll just mute them for now. And so they only see a part of my content. They won't see all the content I post, so that you won't have to see them chiming in saying yay and good luck and all that. But I would not feel so all alone. No, everybody must get stoned. Wow. Well, stone you, then they'll say good luck. But see, that's all about, what's that song about? It's about loyalty, right? People that get stoned are the people that are not as loyal to the beast system as they should be in the eyes of other people, or become a target, because if I can stone you, I can go up the ladder if it counts. And the only way it would count is if you're doing something wrong. Or if you've not paid the devil his due. And by the way, all that's real. That's the real world that faces us every day. Satan rules all institutions of earth, and all going concerns. So if you want to be a success in those and take the prizes, get your prizes, right? You've been selected, you've sold out, now take your prizes. Try to hold on to them into the grave. And I suppose your job is to hunt the people that have fidelity with God or who are loyal. Those are on your shit list, right? Those are the ones that have to be rejected. Those are the ones who have to be, made second-class citizens, even though they put God first. Something about that just doesn't set right. I mean, at the Charlie Kirk memorial, I got the feeling that a lot of people are going to get right with the Lord right now. And all I can do is give you my feelings about it. I don't have anything really prophetic to say other than, to stave off this, world order, that the Great Reset. It's going to have to be every man, woman, and child here. It's going to have to get right with Jesus. And we have to be able to talk to each other like you should listen to me in your living room, or, I should talk to you. You should have say your thing to me, whatever it's going to be at lunch. There should be this open, we should never be clandestine like they are. They are clandestine. Shh, nod, wink, and you know, that, smile when the coast is clear and none of them are around, right? When we're finally, you know, we're in another, hey, we got freedom now. It's just us, cool. And I know people getting mad at me. I can feel the anger. Well, look, I'm going to knock it off now. Okay. I love you, but I can't watch you throw yourself down to hell. I can't watch you destroy yourself. I can't stand by and say nothing while you go down the shitter when it could have been prevented. I can't just see, a train coming that's headed right for you and you're facing the other way and, without, grabbing you and moving you out of the way, even though you might just tell me to go fuck myself and to hell with me and or even want to fight me for it. You know, so when we say Yeshua, we say, God saves, right? So what is saving from, right? Saving from what? Well, you've been warned in the Bible of what? It's the very least, it's fire, brimstone, and you've seen the film Constantine. They've got a great rendition of hell in there, really bad. But see, it's more than that. It's really very similar to this world, based on double speak and a double world. We live in a double world, and most everybody, that has any street smarts at all, which you have to survive, right? So most people do know about the other world. And then when they see someone blabbing their jabber on it, like me, bah, 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 they think that guy's either suicidal or a complete fool. Or don't tell me he didn't get the memo. Oh, I got the memo. Ah, yes, did I get the memos? Lots and lots of memos. But I didn't want to be a slave, so, and I still don't. And if I get rejected from whatever my endeavors are, from film or from publishing books or whatever, for those of you who read Glass backwards, and I know that probably a lot of you are already gone to the Lord, do you think that should be a screenplay, like a film? What kind of tone would it have? It's like almost a, yeah. So I'm getting ready to. I have another Indian film on my sleeve, and then I think Craig's House. We're going to be bundling up some best of the best shorts and then presenting them item by item as only we can, and and making it really interesting for because a lot of these shorts are just really inspiring, and I'm just trying to figure out a way to do it. It's like the best way is to bundle them, so you have like 90 minutes, and then you have me, let's say, as an MC introducing, that's, and I would focus. No, you're not going to get this sort of insane preaching that I do, which is actually technically I shouldn't be able to say any of the things I've said today. They're not acceptable publicly. If I tried to say these on even on other podcasts, they would throw me off. They wouldn't broadcast it. I mean, not all of it, but some of it. And I was kicked off of Stone. What's that guy's name? Stone. Oliver Stone's son. What was his name? So, I wish I could remember. I did one of his buzzsaw things, and they said they called me. The lawyers called them. And they said, "We can't air this." The lawyer said, "We can't air it." And then he was trying to hook me up with his friend, the guy that wrote the book for Kathy, the mind control woman. Who is that? Kathy. Kathy O'Brien. Yeah. And I declined. He said, "Zeph, your podcast is not going to make any difference." But I said, I don't care. I'm going to keep going with it. Tell you one thing that's forever though, the documentary we did, that's gonna make a difference. And I'm thinking it's now time for me to do some memoirs. I got a lot of little irons like that in the fire, little projects, but yeah, I'd love to really flesh out. I've got a lot of details now coming when I was like 1 to 3 years of age. I'd love to really go into like almost Proustian detail, some of these, you know, psychological states and various states. But anyway, when we're kids, we learn about the second world. We learn about it from cartoons. We learn about portals and dimensions. We learn about a lot of stuff that's true. When we're here stripped of all power and all memory, it's hard for us to awaken to the truth or even see it. Even though we all acknowledge there's another world and they're watching us. So what some people think is if I perform and do everything right, have the right crowd, the right friends, the right this and that, network in the right circles, then I'll hit. Then I'll hit. And once I really hit, I don't want to have friends that are people that would, hold me back by telling the truth. In fact, I don't intend to tell the truth. I intend to lie. Because I need to be famous. I need to be rich and famous like all those other people. And to do that, I've got to, watch my P's and Q's and watch who my friends are. And I have to be very, very disloyal and or very loyal to a certain thing that it will remain unnamed, unseen, unmentioned, because it's unmentionable. And anyone that's playing around with that stuff, it's like dynamite. I'm staying away from them. Remember that, I'm staying away from them. When people suddenly leave my friendship, like suddenly I don't see them again for a while, like all of a sudden it's very sparse or sporadic. I know what happened. It's not my fault. I'm the same guy that gets up in the morning and goes to bed at night and talks during the day and goes places, and people see me for who I am. I don't try to hide it. What do you mean hide the fact that I'm a human being after God? I'm a human being following Jesus. I'm a human being inspired by Jesus and no one else. I have no other gods but God. I have no double world. The secret second world we have here is only a secret because people are too afraid to mention it exists. That's what the film Society was all about. And then I've had people shy away from me after that. Well, it's not that I don't like you, Zeph. It's just if I'm seen with you, my career might slow down. My great movie career I'm putting together. Grapefruit. Lord, thank you. It's more than I deserve today. And so this is it for now. I don't know if I do any good or not. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I go into these states of mind and it sounds like I have it all scripted, and it is scripted in a way, but I just